Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. How are you? In this video, we are going to know about the biography of Mahatma Gandhi as today is Gandhi Jayanti. So before going into the video, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon to get the notifications of my videos. Let's start. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on 2nd October 1869 into a Gujarati family in Porbandar. His father, Karamchand Uttamchand Gandhi, served as the Chief Minister of Porbandar state. Although he had only an elementary education and had previously been a clerk in the state administration, he proved a capable chief minister. Karamchand married 4 times. His first two wives died young, after each had given birth to a daughter, and his third marriage was childless. In 1857, Karamchand married Putli Bhai. Karamchand and Putli Bai had 3 children over the ensuing decade: a son named Lakshmidas, a daughter named Raliat Bain, and another son named Karsan Das. On October 2, 1869, Putlibai gave birth to her last child, Mohandas, in a dark, windowless ground floor room of the Gandhi family residence in Porbandar city. In 1874, Gandhi's father Karamchand left Porbandar for the smaller state of Rajkot, where he became a councillor to its ruler, the Thakur Sahib. Rajkot was a less prestigious state than Porbandar, but the British regional political agency was located there, which gave the state's Diwan a measure of security. In 1876, Karamchand became Diwan of Rajkot and was succeeded as Diwan of Porbandar by his brother Tulsidas. His family then rejoined him in the Rajkot. At the age of 9, Gandhi entered the local school in Rajkot near his home. There he studied the rudiments of arithmetic, history, the Gujarati language, and geography. At the age of 11, he joined the high school in Rajkot. He was an average student. He won some prizes, but he was a shy and tongue-tied student with no interest in games, and his only companions were books and school lessons. In May 1883, the 13-year-old Mohandas was married to 14-year-old Kasturbhai Makhanji Kapadia in an arranged marriage according to the custom of the region at that time. In the process, he lost a year at school but was later allowed to make up with his studies. In late 1885, Gandhiji's father Karamchand died. Gandhi, then 16 years old, and his wife of age 17 had their first baby, who survived only a few days. The two deaths anguished Gandhi. The Gandhi couple had 4 more children, all sons. Harilal, who was born in 1888, Manilal, who was born in 1892, Ramdas, who was born in 1897, and Devdas, who was born in 1900. In November 1887, the 18-year-old Gandhi graduated from high school in Ahmedabad. In January 1888, he enrolled at Samaldas College in Bhavnagar state, then the sole degree granted institution of his higher education in the region, but he dropped out and returned to his family in Porbandar. Gandhiji came from a poor family. and he had dropped out of the cheapest college he could afford. Maviji Dev Joshiji, a Brahmin priest and family friend, advised Gandhiji and his family that he should consider law studies in London. In July 1888, his wife Kasturba gave birth to their first surviving son Harilal. His mother was not comfortable about Gandhi leaving his wife and family and going so far from home. Gandhi's uncle Tulsidas also tried to dissuade him. Gandhi wanted to go. To persuade his wife and mother, he made a vow in front of his mother that he would abstain from meat and alcohol. Gandhi's brother Lakshmi Das, who was already a lawyer, cheered Gandhi study plans and offered to support him. Putli Bai gave Gandhi her permission and blessing. On 10th August 1888, Gandhi, aged 18, left Porbandar for Mumbai, then known as Bombay. Upon arrival, he stayed with the local Maudbaniya community, whose elders warned him that England would tempt him to compromise his religion, eating way and drinking way in Western type. Despite Gandhi informing them of his promise to his mother and her blessings, he was communicated from his caste. Gandhi ignored this, and on 4th September he sailed from Bombay to London with his brother, seeing him off. Gandhi attended University College, London, which is a constituent college of University of London. Gandhi's time in London was influenced by the vow he had made to his mother. Gandhi, at age 22, was called to the bar in June 1891 and then left London for India, where he learned that his mother had died while he was in London and that his family had kept the news from him. His attempts at establishing a law practice in Bombay failed because he was psychologically unable to cross-examine the witnesses. In April 1893, Gandhi, aged 23, set sail for South Africa to be the lawyer for Abdullah's cousin. He spent 21 years in South Africa. Immediately upon arriving in South Africa, Gandhi faced discrimination because of his skin color and heritage. He was not allowed to sit with European passengers in the stagecoach and told to sit on the floor near the driver, then beaten when he refused. Elsewhere, he was kicked into a gutter for daring to walk near a house in another instance. He sat in the train station, shivering all night and pondering if he should return to India or protest for his rights. He chose to protest and was allowed to board the train the next day. In another incident, the magistrate of a Durban court ordered Gandhi to remove his turban, which he refused to do. Indians were not allowed to walk on public footpaths in South Africa. Gandhi was kicked by a police officer out of the footpath onto the street without warning. When Gandhi arrived in South Africa, according to Herman, he thought of himself as a Briton first and an Indian second. However, the prejudice against him and his fellow Indians from British people that Gandhi experienced and observed deeply bothered him. He found it humiliating, struggling to understand how some people can feel honor or superiority or pleasure in such inhuman practices. Gandhi began to question his people's standing in the British Empire. Gandhi focused his attention on Indians while in South Africa. He initially was not interested in politics. This changed, however, after he was discriminated against and such as by being thrown out of a train coach because of his skin color by a white train official. After several such incidents with whites in South Africa, Gandhi's thinking and focus changed, and he felt he must resist this and fight for his rights. He entered politics by forming the Natal Indian Congress, and during a speech in September 1896, Gandhi complained that the whites in the British colony of South Africa were degrading Indian Hindus and Muslims to a level of kafir. Scholars cite it is an example of evidence that Gandhi at that time thought of Indians and blacks, South Africans differently. In 1906, when the British declared war against the Zulu kingdom in Natal, Gandhi, at age 36, sympathized with the Zulus and encouraged the Indian volunteers to help as an ambulance unit. He argued that Indians should participate in the war efforts to change attitudes and perceptions of the British people against the colored people. White soldiers stopped Gandhi and team from treating the injured Zulu, and some African stretcher bearers with Gandhi were shot dead by the British. In the years after black South Africans gained the right to vote in South Africa, 1994, Gandhi was proclaimed a national hero with numerous monuments. At the request of Gopal Krishna Gokhale, conveyed to him by C.F. Andrews, Gandhi returned to India in 1915. He brought an international reputation as a leading Indian nationalist, theorist, and community organizer. Gandhi joined the Indian National Congress and was introduced to Indian issues, politics, and the Indian people primarily by Gokhale. Gokhale was a key leader of the Congress party, best known for his restraint and moderation, and his insistence on working inside the system. Gandhi took Gokhale's liberal approach based on British traditions and transformed it to make it look Indian. In April 1918, during the latter part of the World War I, the Viceroy invited Gandhi to a war conference in India. Gandhi agreed to actively recruit Indians for the war effort. In contrast to the Zulu War of 1906 and the outbreak of World War I in 1914, when he recruited volunteers for the ambulance corps, this time Gandhi attempted to recruit combatants. In June 1918, entitled Appeal for Enlistment, Gandhi wrote, "To bring about such a state of things, we should have the ability to defend ourselves, that is, the ability to bear arms and to use them. If we want to learn the use of arms with the greatest possible dispatch, it is our duty to enlist ourselves in the use of arms with the greatest possible dispatch." He did, however, stipulate in a letter to the Viceroy's private secretary that he personally will not kill or injure anybody. Gandhi's war recruitment campaign brought into a question his consistency on non-violence. Gandhi's private secretary noted that the question of the consistency between his creed of ahimsa, that's non-violence, and his recruiting campaign was raised not only then but has been discussed ever since. Champaran Satyagraha. Gandhi's first major achievement came in 1917 with the Champaran agitation in Bihar. The Champaran agitation pitted the local peasantry against their largely British landlords who were backed by the local administration. The peasantry was forced to grow indigo fera. That's a cash crop for indigo dye whose demand had been declining over 2 decades and were forced to sell their crops to the planters at a fixed price. Unhappy with this, the peasantry appealed to Gandhi at his ashram in Ahmedabad. Pursuing a strategy of non-violent protest, Gandhi took the administration by surprise and won concessions from the authorities. In 1919, following World War I, Gandhi sought political cooperation from Muslims in his fight against the British imperialism by supporting the Ottoman Empire that had been defeated in the World War. Before this initiative of Gandhi, communal disputes and religious riots between Hindus and Muslims were common in British India, such as the riots of 1917 to 1918. Gandhi had already supported the British Crown with resources and by recruiting Indian soldiers to fight the war in Europe on the British side. This effort of Gandhi was in part motivated by the British promise to reciprocate the help of Swaraj, that's self-government to Indians after the end of World War I. The British government, instead of self-government, had offered minor reforms, disappointing Gandhi. Gandhiji announced his satyagraha, that's civil disobedience intentions. The British colonial officials made their counter move by passing the Rowlatt Act, that's to block Gandhi's movement. The act allowed the British government to treat civil disobedience participants as criminals and gave it the legal basis to arrest anyone for preventive indefinite detention without judicial review or any need for a trial. The Khilafat movement. Gandhi felt that Hindu-Muslim cooperation was necessary for political progress against the British. He leveraged the Khilafat movement, wherein Sunni Muslims in India, their leaders such as the Sultans of princely states in India and Ali brothers championed the Turkish Caliph as a solidarity symbol of Sunni Islamic community. They saw the Caliph as their means to support Islam and the Islamic law after the defeat of Ottoman Empire in World War I. Gandhi's support to the Khilafat movement led to mixed results. It initially led to a strong Muslim support for Gandhi. However, the Hindu leaders including Rabindranath Tagore questioned Gandhi's leadership because they were largely against recognizing or supporting the Islamic Caliph in Turkey. The increasing Muslim support for Gandhi after he championed the Caliph's cause temporarily stopped the Hindu-Muslim communal violence. It offered evidence of inter-communal harmony in joint. Rowlatt Satyagraha demonstration rallies, raising Gandhi's stature as the political leader to the British. His support for the Khilafat movement also helped him sideline Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who had announced his opposition to the Salt Satyagraha non-cooperation movement approach of Gandhi. Jinnah began creating his independent support and later went on to lead the demand for West and East Pakistan. Though they agreed in general terms on Indian independence, they disagreed on the means of achieving this. Jinnah was mainly interested in dealing with the British via constitutional negotiation, rather than attempting to agitate the masses. By the end of 1922, Khilafat movement had collapsed. Turkey's has ended the caliphate. Khilafat movement ended and Muslim support for Gandhi largely evaporated. Muslim leaders and delegates abandoned Gandhi and his Congress. Hindu-Muslim communal conflicts reigned deadly. Religious riots reappeared in numerous cities with 91 in United Provinces of Agra alone. With his book Hind Swaraj, Gandhiji, aged 40, declared that British rule was established in India with the cooperation of Indians and had survived only because of this cooperation. If Indians refused to cooperate, British rule would collapse and Swaraj would come. The non-cooperation movement was launched on 1st August 1920 by Mahatma Gandhi with the aim of self-governance and obtaining full independence as the Indian National Congress withdrew. This followed the Rowlatt Act of 21st March 1919 and the Jallianwala Bagh massacre of 13 April 1919. The Rowlatt Act of March 1919, which suspended the rights of defendants in sedition trials, was seen as a political awakening by Indians and as a threat by the British. Although it was never invoked and declared void just a few years later, the act motivated Gandhiji to conceive the idea of satyagraha, that's truth. This idea was also authorized the following month by Jawaharlal Nehru, for whom the massacre also endorsed the conviction that nothing short of independence was acceptable. Gandhi's plan of non-cooperation movement included persuading all Indians to withdraw their labor from any activity that sustained the British government and economy in India, including British industries and spinning khadi, buying Indian-made goods, and doing away with English clothes. Gandhi's non-cooperation movement called for the restoration of the Khilafat in Turkey and the end to untouchability. The resulting public held meetings and strikes led to the first arrests of both Jawaharlal Nehru and his father Motilal Nehru on 6 December 1921. It was one of the movements of Indian independence from British rule and ended as Nehru described in his autobiography suddenly in February 1922 after the Chauri Chaura incident. Subsequent independence movements were the Civil Disobedient Movement and the Quit India Movement. Through non-violent means or ahimsa, protesters would refuse to buy British goods, adopt the use of local handicrafts and picket liquor shops. The ideas of ahimsa and non-violence and Gandhi's ability to rally hundreds of thousands of common citizens towards the cause of Indian independence were first seen on a large scale in this movement through the summer of 1920. Gandhi feared that the movement might lead to popular violence. The Salt March, also known as the Salt Satyagraha, Dandi March and the Dandi Satyagraha, was an act of non-violent civil disobedience in colonial India, led by Mahatma Gandhi. The 24-day march lasted from 12th March 1930 to 6th April 1930 as a direct action campaign of tax resistance and non-violent protest against the British salt monopoly. Another reason for this march was that the civil disobedience movement needed a strong inauguration that would inspire more people to follow Gandhi's example. Mahatma Gandhi started this march with 79 of his trusted volunteers, walking 10 miles a day for 24 days. The march spanned over 240 miles, that's 384 kilometers from Sabarmati Ashram to Dundee, which was called Navsari at that time, now in the state of Gujarat. Growing numbers of Indians joined them along the way when Gandhi broke the salt law at 6:30 am on 6 April 1930. It sparked large-scale acts of civil disobedience against the British Raj salt laws by millions of Indians. After making the salt by evaporation at Dundee, Gandhi continued southward along the coast, making salt and addressing meetings on the way. The Congress party planned to state a satyagraha at the Dharasana Salt Works, 25 miles south of Dundee. However, Gandhi was arrested on the midnight of 4 to 5 May 1930, just days before the planned action at Dharasana. The Dundee March and the ensuing Dharasana Satyagraha drew worldwide attention to the Indian independence movement through extensive newspaper and newsreel coverage. The satyagraha against the salt tax continued for almost a year, ending with Gandhi's release from jail and negotiations with Viceroy Lord Irwin at the Second Round Table Conference. Although over 60,000 Indians were jailed as a result of the salt satyagraha, the British did not make immediate major concessions. The Salt Satyagraha campaign was based upon Gandhi's principle of non-violent protest called Satyagraha, which he loses translated as truth force. Literally, it is formed from the Sanskrit word Satya, that's truth, and Agraha, that's insistence. In early 1930, the Indian National Congress chose from British rule and appointed Gandhi to organize the campaign. Gandhi British Salt Act as the first target of Satyagraha. The salt march to Dundee and the beating by British police of hundreds of non-violent protesters in Dharasana, which received worldwide news coverage, is a technique for fighting social and political injustice. This Dundee March was a very national-wide civil disobedience movement. It started it, and it gained worldwide attention also. Gandhi arrest lasted 2 years as he was held in the Aga Khan Palace in Pune. During this period, his longtime secretary Mahadev Desai died of a heart attack. His wife Kasturba died after 18 months imprisonment on 22nd February 1944, and Gandhi suffered a severe malaria attack. While in jail, he agreed to an interview with Stuart Gelder, a British journalist. Gelder then composed and released an interview summary, cabled it to the mainstream press that announced sudden concessions Gandhi was willing to make. Comments that shocked his countrymen, the Congress workers, and even Gandhi. The latter too claimed that it distorted what Gandhi actually said on a range of topics and falsely repudiated the Quit India movement. Gandhiji was released before the end of the war on 6th May 1944 because of his failing health and necessary surgery. The Raj did not want him to die in prison and enrage the nation. He came out of detention to an altered political scene. The Muslim League, for example, which a few years later had appeared marginal, now occupied the center of the political state. And the topic of Muhammad Ali Jinnah's campaign for Pakistan was a major talking point. Gandhi and Jinha had extensive correspondence, and the two men met several times over a period of 2 weeks in September 1944, where Gandhi insisted on a united, religiously plural and independent India, which included Muslims and non-Muslims of the Indian subcontinent coexisting. Jinha rejected this proposal and insisted instead for partitioning the subcontinent on religious lines to create a separate Muslim India, later Pakistan. These discussions continued through 1947, while the leaders of Congress languished in jail. The other parties supported the war and gained organizational strength. Underground publications flailed at the ruthless suppression of Congress, but it had little control over events. At the end of the war, the British gave clear indications that power would be transferred to Indian hands. At this point, Gandhi called off the struggle and around 100,000 political prisoners were released, including the Congress leadership. Gandhiji opposed the partition of the Indian subcontinent along religious lines. The Indian National Congress and Gandhiji called for the British to quit India. However, the Muslim League demanded divide and quit. Gandhiji suggested an agreement which required the Congress and the Muslim League to cooperate and attain independence under a provisional government. Thereafter, the question of partition could be resolved by a plebiscite in the districts with a Muslim majority. Jinha rejected Gandhi's proposal and called for Direct Action Day on 16 August 1946 to press Muslims to publicly gather in cities and support his proposal for the partition of the Indian subcontinent into a Muslim state and non-Muslim state. Hussain Shahid Suhrawardy, the Muslim League Chief Minister of Bengal, now Bangladesh and West Bengal, gave Calcutta's police special holiday to celebrate the Direct Action Day. The Direct Action Day triggered a mass murder of Calcutta Hindus and the torturing of their property. And holidaying police were missing to contain or stop the conflict. The British government did not order its army to move in to contain the violence. The violence on Direct Action Day led to violence against Muslims across India. Thousands of Hindus and Muslims were murdered and tens of thousands were injured in the cycle of violence in the days that followed. Gandhiji visited the most riot-prone areas to appeal a stop to the massacres. Wavell, the Viceroy and the Governor-General of British India for 3 years through February 1947, had worked with Gandhi and Jinha to find common ground before and after accepting Indian independence in principle. Wavell condemned Gandhi's character and motives as well as his ideas. Gandhi, a malignant, malevolent, and a good politician. These words were said by Wavell. Wavell feared a civil war on the Indian subcontinent and doubted Gandhi would be able to stop it. Gandhi spent the day of independence not celebrating the end of the British rule but appealing for peace among the countrymen by fasting and spinning in Calcutta on 15 August 1947. The partition had gripped the Indian subcontinent with religious violence and the streets were filled with corpses. Some writers credit Gandhi's fasting and protests for stopping the religious riots and communal violence. At 5:17 p.m. on 30 January 1948, Gandhi was with his grandnieces in the garden of Birla House, now Gandhi Smriti, on his way to address a prayer meeting when Nathuram Godse, a Hindu nationalist, fired 3 bullets into his chest from a pistol at close range. According to some accounts, Gandhiji died instantly. In other accounts, such as one prepared by an eyewitness journalist, Gandhi was carried into the Birla House into a bedroom. Then he died about 30 minutes later as one of Gandhi family members read verses from Hindu scriptures. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru addressed his countrymen over the All India radio saying, "Friends and comrades, the light has gone out of our lives and there is darkness everywhere, and I do not quite know what I tell you or how to say it. Our beloved leader, Bapu as we call him, the father of nation, not only is no more, perhaps I am wrong to say that. We will not see him again, as we have seen him for these many years. We will not run to him for advice or seek solace from him. And that is a terrible blow, not only for me, but for millions and millions in this country." Godse, a Hindu nationalist with links to the extremist Hindu Mahasabha, made no attempt to escape. Several other conspirators were soon arrested as well. They were tried in court at Delhi's Red Fort. At his trial, Godse did not deny the charges nor express any remorse. According to Claude Markowitz, a French historian noted for his studies of colonial India, Godse stated that he killed Gandhi because of his complaisance towards Muslims, holding Gandhi responsible for the frenzy of violence and sufferings during the subcontinent's partition into Pakistan and India. Godse accused Gandhi of subjectism and of acting as if only he had a monopoly of the truth. Godse was found guilty and executed in 1949. Gandhiji's children and grandchildren live in India and other countries. Grandson Raj Mohan Gandhi is a professor in Illinois and an author of Gandhi's biography titled Mohandas, while another, Tarun Gandhi, has authored several authoritative books on his grandfather. Another grandson, Kanu Ramdas Gandhi, who is the son of Gandhi's third son Ramdas, was found living in an old age home in India, Delhi, despite having taught earlier in the United States. Gandhiji has written many inspiring quotes. Let me say some of them. The future depends on what you do today. If we want to reach real peace in this world, we should start educating children. Without action, you aren't going anywhere. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do in harmony. In a gentle way, you can shake the world. There are 2 days in the year that we cannot do anything, yesterday and tomorrow. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. So friends, those were some of the quotes, and there are many which I don't have time to show in this video. The video has been very lengthy now. So friends, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and also share this video with all your friends and let them also know the biography of Mahatma Gandhi. So also smash the subscribe button and click on the bell icon to get the notifications of my videos. Okay friends? Also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Links are given in the description box. So friends, thank you for watching. Take care. Bye bye.